I felt like we were about to have like a Sean Jones style
Oh my gosh.
fumble return for a touchdown.
I was saying the same thing. I was saying the same thing. Scoop and score. Scoop and score. Do it. Ah.
Yeah. Welcome to My Got a Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I review Georgia's 41-17 victory over Tennessee in Knoxville. As always, remember to check out store.mygotapodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at MyGotAPodcast. Finally, if you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, 5 stars obviously, and review the show. If you leave us a review, you just might hear it on an upcoming episode. Now, let's join the conversation in progress. So all those Vols who were confident in the upset, I assume are quite sad now.
Nothing sucks like a big orange.
Like the mental gymnastics, the post-game mental gymnastics. I've seen a couple on Twitter that were pretty funny, but like, sure, we lost, but kinds of things.
Yeah. They're poised for success with Josh Heupel at the helm, which, you know, there's certainly some room there for optimism, but my question would be, you know, is Kirby Smart still going to be coaching at Georgia?
Good point. Yeah, I mean, I was impressed with their offense. I mean, the text thread was popping, especially after the first drive. Kind of like, whoa, what just happened? I definitely did not expect for them to march down the field on the opening drive like that. And really, it should have been a 2-play drive. They should have scored on the second play of the game. That should have been a 75-yard touchdown pass, or ish, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was impressive. But, you know, it's like Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? And Georgia got punched in the mouth. And we hadn't really been punched in the mouth, not like that all season. Auburn, I guess, would be the closest. But so we got punched in the mouth and we punched back. I mean, that's kind of how that's like my summation of this game, really, right?
Yeah, like right back.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
It was like we got punched. It was like we got punched, and then we punched back, and they kept punching, and we just got so mad that we decided to just destroy them.
Yeah, seriously. I guess kind of before we get into the game, like just a couple of things to acknowledge. Georgia is 10-0 for the first time since 1982. And this is the first time we've ever gone 8-0 in the SEC. So definitely just impressed. I'm enjoying it. Just want to make sure we hit on that. I don't know, it's just it's something to admire and be proud of and appreciate. Obviously, there's more work to do, but you know, as podcasters and as fans, just wanted to call that out. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. I know that I have been on that train for the last several weeks. I think I'm gonna have to start Carter's been like bouncing in and out. Like he's like he has ADD. He like doesn't sit still. So like getting him to sit for a full game, he's like, you know, we were tied all of a sudden, and he went out and played and was running around with his buddies and stuff playing football. We're Georgia fans too. Their dad is like me that follows it religiously. So, but anyway, they came back in and they're like, "Whoa, what happened? We're winning. We're kicking their butt." Yeah. So like, I feel like it's got to be more incumbent on me to like sit him down and be like, "Listen, this is historic. We're going to be talking to our grandkids about this season."
Yeah. I don't know. My girls are just not super into it.
Yeah.
Lily watched a good bit of it with me. But Ella had her performance, so she was at that, which we had talked about. I ended up watching the whole game. She, for whatever reason, she did not want Lily and I to come to the chorus thing that was Saturday. Lily was exhausted from soccer anyway, so she actually asked if she could stay home. So I stayed home with her.
Right.
so I had a little viewing at home. It was mainly me. So you said something about that this was your least pleasant viewing experience or something. And
Oh
I think
yeah.
was that about the CBS broadcast itself, or what were you talking about?
No, I was saying this was probably my least favorite because I didn't have the TV outside and literally everyone was home. And it was just
Mm.
like people were waltzing in, like wife wasn't really taking it seriously. She was like, you're stressing me out." And I was like, well, this is just how I am. You know what I mean? Like everybody
Yes,
was
yes,
home. Everybody was home. There was no sports. Um, Carter had his game that morning, which they won 6-1. Shout out to Carter. Um,
nice.
he played really nice. We got added to a second game, which would have really like made me mad. But he was supposed to play a second game at noon, and I was like, no, we can't do that because
Okay.
we had not only had pictures, but we were rushing back, and everybody was stressed out from pictures because, as you recall, we had
Mm.
like Santa pictures with professional Santa pictures, um, with my wife and everyone. So that was great. That was fun. But I came within a whisker of watching the game at Reformation Brewery because apparently Reformation Brewery was right down the street from where we had our pictures done. And I was like, "Why didn't you tell me this, Lindsay? We could have like prepared for an afternoon up here." And she was like, "I didn't even think about it." But of course, it was also freezing, so that would have been an interesting situation. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I got forced inside. I was trying to watch it on our porch because it was actually pretty nice. But we've got a covered porch, so with the shade and then the wind started blowing, I didn't really feel like lighting a fire. And this was before Kim had left to go to the chorus thing, and she was like, "I'm watching inside." She's like, "You're welcome to stay out here, but I'm going to go inside." I was like,
yeah,
"Okay,
yeah.
yeah, it's too cold." So ended up same thing. I came inside and just watched on the couch.
Yeah, the kids were coming in and out. Obviously it was a tight game in the first, at least the first quarter, first two quarters,
Yeah,
um, and so it was a little stressful for me. And so I was definitely like getting excited. I was frustrated on certain occasions too, which we'll talk about. But um, I think that when the interception happened, I like leapt up to my feet and I was like, finally! And I was like, yes! Like it was like an epiphany had happened. I was like, "Yep, this is gonna happen." That was when I knew that we were gonna win. But then, like, my
yeah.
kids came in and like, "Daddy, why are you yelling?"
Yeah, I freaked
We're
Munson
winning.
out. Yeah, Munson started barking at me when we got the interception because I did the same thing. Yeah, so let's talk about that, right? We can go back to the game. I mean, so they score, then we come back and score on the James Cook long touchdown round, and it was a good drive for Georgia to respond with. But yeah, I mean, there were definitely some nerves early. I mean, what Tennessee was doing on offense was working at least for the first quarter, right? But then this game was
Yeah,
really the turning point, and where the game was won was the middle of the game, right? The second and third quarter, Georgia just took over the game, really.
for sure. It was. I mean, I think that. I mean, we were talking about it. Um, I mean, we were talking about it, and it was like, what was going on? Like, I was so confused, and
Mm-hmm.
part of the problem that exasperated my confusion was that Tennessee was just going so fast that we didn't even have time to like look at an actual like different camera angle up close like
Yeah,
replay of some of these things that were happening in the first quarter because they were moving so fast that the camera crews couldn't even keep up with them. And that was definitely didn't help situation, was that they were moving so darn fast that we couldn't even see the replays. So
yeah,
um anyway, yeah, the second
yeah.
play of the game.
I still haven't seen a good replay of that second play. Like
Yeah,
I haven't seen because they didn't do that. Agreed. Yeah, I'm still waiting to see that. I don't know if
yeah,
anyone
I
has a
mean,
copy that has that. I would like to see what exactly happened.
the good news is that our coaches clearly saw it, because
Yeah,
it didn't last for very long, the confusion. So it sounded like that based on what I've been hearing coming out was like, Ringo was frustrated with Brini. I mean, Brini frankly looked like he was lost in the first quarter, and I think that's part of some of the changes that they made by moving Chris Smith to the star position.
yeah.
Um, which I didn't notice that off the cuff, but John and everybody started kind of pointing that out. I think it was Jed May, was it, on Twitter that dropped the nugget that Brooks Austin retweeted, and it was like, oh my gosh, he's totally right. Like ever since that
Mhm.
change, like everything kind of fell into place, and that really was like a crucial coaching move. I mean, there's definitely some coaching questions that on both sides of the ball, or I mean, sorry, both sides of the field. Like Tennessee made some questionable coaching calls, in my opinion, as well.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
like the coaching, we outcoached them for sure. Like we definitely outcoached them.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about like halftime adjustments a lot, right? Like, what are you gonna? You're gonna see what they do, and you're gonna adjust at halftime. I mean, and the fact that the adjustment came way earlier than that, I think,
Mm-hmm.
paid dividends. So the staff was able to really adjust on the fly, and I think the second quarter is that demarcation. Yeah. So in the second quarter, Georgia outgained Georgia outgained Tennessee 191 yards to 25 yards, which is just insane. So Georgia's offense kind of kept doing what it had been doing, and then Tennessee's offense was just stagnant at that point.
I mean, we definitely were taking the game to them from a coaching. We threw personnel, we threw blitz packages, we threw all sorts of stuff at them from a defensive standpoint to get a push, to get a spark. Um, I mean, a hell of a game. Nolan Smith, I mean, Channing Tindall, like all those guys had. It seemed like
Yeah,
that everybody along the line started gelling pretty good once they couldn't really do anything through the air. Like they really weren't able to do much after that first quarter. And
yeah,
there was a point in the I want to say it was the second quarter. I can't remember exactly when it was, but on the sideline you could see it was actually one of the first times that I've actually seen Jamil Adai, or Jamiel, is
I think
that how
it's
you say it?
Jamal. Yeah,
Jamiel.
yeah, Jamal.
Um, that was one of the few times that I had actually seen him on TV. Like, I was like, oh yeah, yeah, that's the defensive backs coach. Kirby was really chewing him out. I don't know if he was necessarily chewing him out or just generally just raging, but it seemed like that
Right.
shortly after that. It seemed like that shortly after that was when we made some of the personnel changes. I think you had pointed that out to me, that it had to have been shortly right after that they moved Chris Smith to the star position, which really changed things from a defensive standpoint because it brought speed on the field, right? Like physical speed, not a mere speed.
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dan Jackson moved in. It basically took the Chris Smith safety spot, and Smith came up to the star. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
totally agree. I mean, that was a turning point in the game, and really, you know, the offense. I don't know, I guess I would say throughout the course of the game was fairly consistent. I think after that first drive, kind of stalled out a little bit, but then really got back in gear and kind of stayed there. Like I would say, Stetson wasn't perfect. He missed some throws.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he did a few things that were kind of dangerous, I guess I would say, but ended up working. Like where he kept like throwing it away while getting sacked, and so he prevented a sack. But they were throws that I've seen called intentional grounding in other games, and we've kind of complained about what isn't intentional grounding sometimes. Um, but there was a couple of pretty risky throwaways that he had, but again, they were successful and saved yardage. But I mean, he continues to make some pretty impressive plays. So um, the rushing touchdown in the second quarter was awesome. That was an improvisation, play action pass, nothing there, took off and ran. Kind of reminded me of Fromm on Rocky Top as a freshman in 17. He had, I
Yeah.
think, two rushing touchdowns in that game. And then he had another Fromm like moment, I feel like. So, end of the second quarter, we're approaching halftime. There's 3 minutes and 42 seconds to go in the first half. Georgia gets the ball at our own 10-yard line. And it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do? We're going to try to just kind of get out of here and punt, and started off pretty conservative, right, with some running plays to James Cook, who had the hot hand and really got us out of that hole. And it ultimately ended up being a 90-yard touchdown drive that ended with 37 seconds left in the half. I mean, that was a statement drive and pretty much ended the game. I mean, obviously there was more to go, but when you get that cushion with our defense, it felt really good at halftime. And a
Yeah.
lot of things happened on that drive too, right? So we had the almost catch by Brock Bowers with the air Kirby, jumping on the sideline. That happened on that drive.
Yeah.
AD Mitchell became possessed on that drive. I think he had 5 catches or something on that drive. It was amazing. We saw a holding call on Brock Bowers on the edge, which was just mind-boggling because Tennessee's receivers were holding our defensive backs all day, and then we get a holding call on Brock Bowers. That was kind of frustrating. But then the other Fromm moment that I was going to say was there was a point where Stetson, it looked like he was going to take off to run, and then right as he was approaching the line of scrimmage, made a throw to AD Mitchell, and it just reminded me of the Rose Bowl when Fromm did that, and threw to Sony.
Yeah.
Similar play to that. It was incredible. And then the James Cook in motion, one-on-one matchup with a linebacker, with a perfect pass from Stetson to Cook. There's so much that happened on that drive. It was awesome. I was loved every minute of that drive, and it was, like I said, it was a statement drive, and it was kind of over at that point.
Yeah, no, I agree. There was definitely some frustrating points on the offense too, as much as there was positive. I just
Yeah.
I feel like that. What was it coming? It was coming out of the halftime. Coming out of halftime, we got the ball back, and it was opportunity to put a statement on the board right out of the gate, which eventually we did.
Yeah.
But it was very clear that James Cook was the hot hand on the running side of the game from the running back position, and he didn't touch the ball at all in that series. And I think John was the first one that kind of pointed that out. I was like, yeah, we had zero James Cook after halftime. Need more Cook, and prompted me to tweet needs more Cook the rest of the way. I think that was something that I guess Monken maybe hurt us because it felt like that the next series was all Cook.
Yeah, and we obviously are huge Zamir White fans on this podcast. We've talked about how he is the guy, but you've got to recognize what's going on. And I think like you said, I think eventually we did. We stuck with Cook, I would say somewhat, and by the end of the game, we definitely did. But frankly, I would have liked to see him even more than we did. But whatever, 41-17.
Yeah, the big thing for me was, or I guess another big thing for me was, it looked like that we had, I don't know what we were doing with Zeus. It just looked like that we were using Zeus in
Mm-hmm.
different ways than we have in the past. I don't know, but obviously James Cook ended up with, he ended up with a 100-yard game. What was it we were talking about? When was the last time we had 100 yards? So here we are, another 100-yard game. I mean, James Cook, 10 carries, 104 yards. He averaged 10.4 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns, and he had almost a 40-yard touchdown. I mean, you really can't. And not to mention the fact that he had a receiving touchdown, 3 receptions for 43 yards. He was our second leading receiver. I mean, it was literally the James Cook show.
Yeah, I mean, it was his best game at Georgia, right? I think pretty hands down. And for whatever reason, his style was suited to carving them up. I mean, I agree on Zeus. I feel kind of in the fourth quarter, I think on the drive that was the last touchdown drive where ultimately Kenny McIntosh scored the touchdown. But that drive we did see Zeus start to kind of heat up. I think I had texted my dad and I was like, Zeus is about to put this game on ice. He's about to, deliver the knockout punch, kind of like he did against Florida. And I think he would have if they had left him in the game. But let Kenny McIntosh do that, which is fine. It's kind of that thing, right? As the defense gets worn down, when they're worn down, I think that's when Zeus can really punish you. When the defense is tired, but he's kind of doing that throughout the game. I mean, he's that bruiser that kind of does that throughout the game. But yeah, for whatever reason, they were just bigger. There were lanes that were there that seemed suitable for Cook's shiftiness and speed, I guess,
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was a good day up in Rocky Top. They I definitely think that it was a situation where hope was literally stolen from their grasp because they jumped out so quickly and we were so discombobulated. And then for the game to end the way that it was, the way that it did, it was just kind of like, I mean, it had to have been demoralizing for a lot of Tennessee fans. It had to feel a lot like a lot of teams feel when they play Alabama, which, if there ever was a quote unquote Alabama-ish team, um, this is that team. Like Kirby's basically built
yeah.
what he helped build, years ago at Alabama.
Yep, agreed. Um, the one other thing I wanted to call out on the offense was that we did have a toss sweep touchdown out of the I formation. We had 23 personnel, so we had a fullback, a tailback, and 3 tight ends. And I just love that. And I tweeted out from the podcast account that it was borderline erotic. I love to see that. That was incredible.
Well, I,
Uh,
way that it worked, it looked pretty good to me, man. Let's dial it up some more.
Yeah, and
Um,
we've seen that wasn't we've seen Zeus line up at fullback earlier in the season too. So
yeah,
went back to that well. It's worked both times. So
I just hope that from an offensive standpoint, you know, there were definitely some, like you mentioned it earlier, the some of the dangerous throws. Like I can't remember
yeah,
who it was that said it, but like, oh, it was Brooks Austin. He had mentioned that his spidey senses were tingling when Stetson does some of those dangerous things. That it just
yeah.
makes you feel like that it worked out okay here, but those are the kind of plays that you try them against Alabama and they go south quickly, kind of stuff. And I just hope that he doesn't get to
Mhm.
a comfort level where that moxie turns into that was a dumb play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do feel like he has grown. Like we've definitely seen him throw the ball away in this game included in situations where I felt like in the past maybe he forced something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they could have been a pick or whatever. So yeah, I think he's definitely improving there. So, but yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Gotta I don't know. Can't take too many risks against.
All things considered, we did pretty well. All things
Yeah,
considered,
yeah,
we did pretty well for against the team that leads the nation in tackles for loss. I think it was.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, overall, not a lot to complain about. Other than I do have something to complain about. Can I go to my rant?
uh, yes.
I think you know what's coming. So, uh, as we're approaching the end of the game, we had to play. There's like around 11 minutes left when Nolan Smith got injured. There's 11 minutes left in the game. I get it. I think it was 34-10. They're trying to score. But we had a play right there that ended that drive. So that was where we sacked Hooker. He fumbled. I think Trayvon Walker recovered. I felt like we were about to have like a Sean Jones style
Oh my
fumble
gosh.
return for a
I,
touchdown.
I was saying the same thing. I was saying the same thing. Scoop and score. Scoop and score. Do it. Ah.
Yeah. So it was pretty close to that, but that didn't happen. But like at that point, I mean, the game was over, right? I mean, it's 34-10. The game is over. We tacked on another touchdown. They eventually scored, but so my rant is like, why were why were these defenders still in the game at that point? And I'm specifically pointing to like, the end result was like Devontae Wyatt ends up going down with an injury. Hopefully he's okay. Like I said, with Nolan Smith, 11 minutes left in the game when he hurt his elbow. There's 11 minutes left in the game. I get that, but Devontae Wyatt, at that point, we were up 41-17. There's 35 seconds left in the game. The game is over. He's already had to be helped off the field with an apparent injury twice, and then this was the third time he gets injured during the game. So I don't get that. That I don't know. That's my rant. Like at that point, there should have been no key defensive contributors in the game anymore at that point, in my opinion. So that's my only gripe of the game.
I agree. I don't know. He made some you know references to the number of players that they have and all that kind of stuff. I was like, yeah, I mean, I get it, but like, do we not have anybody else that plays Devontae Wyatt's position, like, ready to go? Like,
Right.
are they sick? That was another thing. We haven't touched on that, but like,
Yeah.
apparently we had the flu or a stomach bug or something coming through
Yep.
the team that impacted a lot of folks, which made me question, like, well, was Brittany sick? Was he one of those guys?
Hmm.
Maybe that's why he looked out of sorts. Maybe Zeus. I don't know, because Zeus wasn't his usual self, I guess. Um, I don't know. I was wondering like what the full true impact list is, because apparently there's still some players that are seeing some impacts as of recording today, Monday.
Yeah.
Apparently there's still some guys with some um, you know remnant activities and guys that maybe could potentially come down with the flu. Hopefully we can clear that all out in the next 2 weeks so that we have a 100% healthy team coming into SEC championship week.
Yeah, I know. I feel like Gary Danielson said on the broadcast that it was primarily the defensive line, which again, to your point, right, that could lead to something of Devontae Wyatt still being in the game. Although, granted, like someone came in and replaced him when he left. So, but yeah, but on the flu bug thing for sure. I mean, we know Jalen Carter had it, and ultimately that's why he left the game.
He
I
was
think we've heard
playing with a
Erickson.
100-degree fever.
Yeah, yeah, and I think Erickson. I think we heard was also one of the people. He ended up getting replaced by Truss. So that's again something to watch going forward because I do, Truss is massive, and he came in at right guard. And again, I look for. I'm not so much as into the statistics and stuff as you are. I kind of fly on like emotion and remembering things of days past and look for analogies and things. And kind of feels like Ben Cleveland getting inserted as the right guard in 2017. Potentially, right?
Right, right,
Seeing
right.
Truss come into this line. So I am curious to see how the line shapes up going forward, personnel wise. Especially if we can get Salyer back. I think we could see some changes there. We're building up this depth with Jones, and then now with Truss coming in. I'm excited to see where that all goes. You want to review our predictions? We can hit that really quick.
Yeah, let's review. I think we were pretty close, right?
Yeah. So on the over under for the over under, I was correct. I took the over. You took the under. The over under was 56. 58 points were scored in the game. And then on the score itself, so let's see. So you had Georgia winning 38-9. I had Georgia winning 42-13, and then obviously actual score 41-17. So both pretty close. I was super close. So I think we did pretty good there. I wanted to call out a couple of things from Coach Joe Bill's over unders. So one was I actually don't remember seeing the Stokes sack hit on Maurer. I saw it on the socials before the game, and like it was in the Georgia video, pregame video, but I did not see it in the broadcast, so I could have missed it though. And then a shout out to Chase Kelly. I saw a picture of him and some of his friends holding golf balls in the stadium.
Oh yeah.
It's my understanding is that he got the golf balls from Robert Wolf. So shout out to those guys. And then we also saw a picture of some mustard from Wise Dog. I think Wise Dog was assaulted with some mustard. So
was he assaulted or did he spill? Like
I'm not sure. All I know is there was some sort of mustard incident.
right. Yeah, I think
So,
I don't know. I don't have any other like colorful elements, but there was no mustard in the Powell household.
nice. Let's see. Here, I can just run through the rest of his. He had over under Georgia touchdowns 5.5. It was under at 5. Special teams or defensive touchdowns at 0.5. There weren't any, so that was a 0. And then Georgia passing yards over under 275. We had 213, and then rushing yards to 25, we hit the over at 274. So that was it for those. So, but yeah, man, it was a good day. Like I said, 41-17, big win over the Vols. Great way to close out the SEC slate. Like we talked about before, we're 10-0, 8-0 in the SEC for the first time ever. So, good day for the Dogs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if I was Tennessee, I would probably be looking at this as obviously a positive sign. You scored more points on the University of Georgia than anybody else in the country, but there's also some elements that I feel like that are worthy of at least questioning. I mean, you've got a team that was averaging, we weren't really stopping them. There was a point in the game when it was 4th and 1, and I recognized that they were on their own territory, but like they decided to punt it on 4th and 1. I don't think they ended up getting punished for it, but like decisions like that, I felt like were like, why are we punting it when our offense has literally burned Georgia like all up to that point? They had been burning us. And so I don't know. And then there was another situation where it was like, why are we kicking the field goal, or why are you going for it? Like, I don't know. There was some questionable decisions that I felt like that Heupel made that I don't know are definitely worthy of second looks as a coaching staff, and that's part of the reason I think that we outcoached them is some of those decisions. So, anyhow, the Dogs won. There's not a whole lot to complain about. We saw some growing. If nothing else, I feel like that, one of the things that we were worried about preseason was the secondary getting burned against a good quarterback, which, it's probably questionable on whether or not we saw a good quarterback on Saturday. But at the same time, like, we saw our coaching staff's ability to pivot and utilize the resources that they have and the coaching prowess to, make changes to account for problems that we have on the defense. So, the interchanging of personnel on the offensive line, there's just a lot going on with some of the coaching decisions that were made in game that was encouraging for Dog fans. So,
yeah, for sure.
Well, it's always fun to walk away from Knoxville with a win. Not having to hear the Rocky Top as a loser is a heck of a lot worse than as a winner. So,
when you could hear it being played in the stadium late, it was kind of like, ha ha ha, yes, yes. You hear Rocky Top and you're up, 41-17. That was good. I will say one thing I will say, they had like a lot of like piped in music playing on their sound system that was playing like all the way up to the snap, it felt like. So I don't know. I feel like it was a little over the top, but whatever. I guess it's, allowed, but it's kind of weird, right?
Speaking of atmospheres that are just a thorn in your side, can we is the Tennessee turf, death taxes and Tennessee Neyland Stadium turf?
Yeah,
I felt like people were slip sliding all over the place.
Yeah, and that compounds my frustration of Devontae Wyatt still being in the game late. Just like, how many devastating injuries has Georgia had happen at Tennessee? Like, you got to know these things historically. Like, this is what happens in Knoxville. I feel like that's where I feel like, you could have like someone like a Jeff Dantzler could be kind of like a common sense coach for Kirby to be like, hey, Kirby, do you know how many knee injuries we've had here? Get these guys off the field.
Right, exactly.
I don't know.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I agree.
We won. We destroyed them. Ho hum. Rinse, repeat. Like, we just have to wait until next week to see people saying, what's Georgia going to do about this offensive team and that offensive team? Well, you continue to line them up for us, and we continue to knock them down in historic fashion. There's not much else to say, but go Dogs.
Agreed. Go Dogs.